anxietycenter.com.
Well, I'd like to welcome anxietycenter.com recommended therapists Chris, Nancy, and Grace to our discussion today. Thank you all so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to participate in today's discussion. It's greatly appreciated, and I hope our members will pick your brains thoroughly before we're done today. So again, thank you so much for participating.
Glad to be
My
here.
pleasure. Thanks. Glad we could do this today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know you're all busy and schedules all over the map, so it's nice that you could carve out some time for this group. So that said, we have 5 members joining us today, and we can take your questions on any topic. If it is COVID-19 related, that's great. If it's not, that's fine too. So I'm going to leave the floor open. So who would like to ask the first question or offer the first comment?
Hi, hope you're all okay. My question, I know obviously, like you just said, you're only offering opinions and you're not doctors and medically qualified. I'm at home at the moment, obviously with the COVID-19 that's happening. It's really, really frightening. I suffer with quite severe health anxiety. So every symptom of anxiety, every symptom of anxiety that I get, I think it's medically related. And I've had a lot of testing done and everything's come back clear, but I'm really, really freaking myself out because recently they've put me under like the psychology team and things like that because I had a trauma a few years ago. And they gave me some medication, which is a benzodiazepine called diazepam or Valium, whatever name you want to call it. And I've used it responsibly, and I've not used it every single day. And I've wrote down every single day that I've used the medication. So from December the 24th, 2019, till now, so we're on the 2nd of April, I've used it for 30 days within that period of time, but not consecutively. I've used it sporadically as and when I've needed it. But I've absolutely got myself in such a state thinking, because I've read I've stupidly on a forum called Benzo something or other, that even after 3 days of use, you can have severe withdrawal symptoms and they're addictive and etc. And that after 30 days of use, even though it's been over a 3-month period or so, that I possibly could have withdrawal symptoms going on for long periods of time. Like people are still saying they're suffering 12, 18, 24 months later. And because my anxiety centres around my health, this is really, really disturbed me and I'm panicking now. So I don't know if anybody could give me any advice as to what I've read, whether it's true or I've just read people's experiences, that's all. Many of them have been taking them daily for long periods of time and I haven't, but they're still saying that I could go into withdrawal.
All right. Did any of the therapists want to respond to that? Okay, well, I will offer an opinion on this just because I lived through benzos myself. When you see people writing about the long-term effects of benzodiazepines, almost always it's related not because of what the benzo did, but because of unaddressed anxiety behaviors that remain. Now, when we come off of a benzo medication, certainly we're going to have some hardship if the body has become chemically addicted. And 3 days is not enough to be chemically addicted. It's usually 2 to 3 weeks of steady use. So if you've been taking it, a day here and a day there and, have lots of days in between, it's probably not a concern for you. But even if a person does become chemically addicted, the addiction usually only lasts for about 3 to 4 weeks by the time the body breaks clear. And then anything else after that is usually behavior related. And here's the problem. We take a benzo, we feel good, stop the benzo, we feel awful. And then because we keep feeling awful and we don't understand why, of course, what do we blame? The benzo. When in fact it's really just anxious behaviors. So in that case, it's I wouldn't be concerned, just because, again, it doesn't sound like you become chemically dependent. And even if your body did, you can still break it and be fine within 4 to 5 weeks or so.
Okay, thank you very much, Jim. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. With that said, I would really recommend, though, working with a therapist to help you address those anxious behaviors, because, again, all the benzo does is act as a tranquilizer. It sedates the nervous system, gives us that artificial calming effect. And if we aren't chemically addicted, well, then, we can use it here and there, and it's not that big of a deal. But if we're using it kind of on a more frequent basis, that usually means there's behaviors that need to be addressed. And until those behaviors are addressed, then it just becomes the problem of having to manage symptoms all the time. So I really would recommend connecting with a therapist to work through those anxiety things, so you don't have to be worrying about dampening down symptoms frequently.
I think obviously with everything that's going on in the world right now, and I've been so anxious. I work up at our local hospital as well, so you've got a lot of patients coming in, and I've just got myself into such a state about this COVID-19, and you're right, I have been dampening down the symptoms. I felt I've been unable to cope with them, and I have been dampening them down with the benzodiazepines, but I have used it responsibly. I've wrote down every day that I've taken it, and like I said, I haven't taken it daily for 30 days. It's been over a period of 3 months, but I shouldn't be scaring myself reading things online about other people's experiences, and that's what I've done as well.
Yeah, it's common. And you say you work at the hospital?
I do, yeah.
Okay, so you are an essential worker. You have to be in that environment. And based on the way things are right now, it's an understandable concern, because there is, lots going on. And especially if you're on the front lines at a hospital, there's a lot of stress there. Working long hours, always having to be in. That stress alone can crank the nervous system up to where you're having symptoms. So it might not, in this case, be just the anxiety component, but just the stress of the job and trying to keep, those hours, and when you get home, trying to rest and ready to go, back into that environment. So there is reason to be, stressed about all of this. So one thing we do want to do too is, if that's the case, you don't want your symptoms to scare you. Just because you're having symptoms of stress doesn't mean they're, it's something that needs to be addressed right away. It could be just that you're under a stressful circumstance right now. The good news is, as you work through it, and after this is all done, you'll be able to give your body some rest, and you'll probably find those symptoms, diminish and disappear. I'm not a big fan of trying to manage stress symptoms with medication, because then you can set up that negative cycle of addiction and so on and so forth. Then it's just harder at the other end. So here again, you might want to employ some really good stress management practices. And if you are struggling with the angst about it all, here again, as we're talking with a therapist, can really be helpful.
I will do. Thank you very much. I even asked the team that I'm under here in the UK, they call it a mental health team. I'm like, oh my gosh, do I have to taper? And they're like, Sam, you're reading too much into this. You've taken them for 30 days, not daily, over a 3-month period. You're reading far too much. You're taking it far too seriously. They said they have people on them daily for a very long period of time, and they think it's more my anxiety talking as opposed to me needing to taper off these for a long period of time. So yeah.
How many tablets did you get when you first got them?
You're only prescribed here 14 at a time.
Okay, and you stretched that out over 3 months?
No, I've had a prescription a few times over the 3 months.
Okay. How often per month do you think you took them?
I'd say I've taken them every week, not every day.
Mm-hmm. Once a week, twice a week?
Probably twice or 3 times a week, yeah.
Okay. And what's the dosage?
The 5 milligram ones.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So.
Yeah, and just if you're taking them, say, even twice a week or 3 times a week at 5 milligrams, your body could set up a chemical addiction. So you might have some of that going on. But again, it's not something we have to be really worried about. what you'll probably find is if you stop taking them and then 2 or 3 days out you're feeling kind of really upset, that's probably more the benzo talking than anything.
Right.
And if you just hold yourself through that and, work at reducing your stress and giving your body some time to rest, you'll probably find that leaves relatively quickly. It could be 2 or 3 days, but over the course of time it does diminish. But again, the good news with benzos is that there usually isn't any really long-term negative effects, especially if we work on our underlying factors. It's just, making that first break is usually where the difficulty is, and then after that the body settles out.
Yeah, because I had to come off the forum, excuse me, because a lot of people were referring me to the Ashton manual by Heather Ashton and things like that, and I was just frightening myself, so I've come off the forum now. So
okay, sure. And when was your last? When did you take the pill last time?
A few days ago, probably 3 or 4 days ago.
Okay. And do you notice anything? Do you find yourself more anxious now?
A little bit, yeah, I am. But again, there's a lot going on for everybody, isn't there? Worrying and things. So
yeah, there sure is. Yeah.
Can I just add a bit of reassurance there for Sammy, please? Because Jim will tell you of my history.
Yep.
I've been addicted to almost every benzo on the market over the years, coming off, coming through, and then working with the lady you just mentioned and helping many, many people off. And as Jim said, it's mostly people who've been addicted to benzos for many, many years. Some just stop them immediately, and the body is bound to let you know it's not happy. And normally some people are given short-acting ones like lorazepam that don't stay in the body too long. And if you stop them quickly, you tend to have a few more anxiety symptoms. But generally, as a rule, you would be given diazepam because it's longer acting in the system. And then you would come off of that. So you haven't really been on it long enough to cause you major problems. And what I saw over the years were people who were not educated on the coming off of benzos, doctors who weren't educated on the prescribing of benzos. And there is a lot of, differing opinions out there, but generally you've not been on that long in the great scheme of things, and it sounds as though you're being very sensible with them. And you like Jim has already said, you may get a few symptoms of increased anxiety for a while, but you would eventually, like I did. I haven't taken a benzo now for many, many, many years, and my anxiety is because I didn't work on it, and I've had other issues in life rather than the problems with the benzos. But you will be fine, I promise. I know many, many people who've come through that.
Thank you very much. That were extremely helpful. Thank you.
That is really good reassurance. I just wanted to say, this is Nancy, and I really like a lot of the things that you're doing already to help reassure yourself. One, just being here and asking for support and reassurance. And number two, you're gathering a lot of evidence that is helping you to remember that you don't have anything to worry about. You're taking the medication responsibly. You've talked with your doctor about it. I think the thing that I would like to just reinforce is what Jim said, that you're to use other strategies. So it's not wrong to use the medication. Lots of people are. There are so many people afraid right now. The stress is so valid. Most people on the front lines do feel afraid, and it's important to acknowledge that. I feel afraid, but I'm still working in the hospital, for example. That's validating your own emotions, and that helps with acceptance. There's so many tools that you could put in your toolbox, so to speak, or your tool belt. And I would just like to see you equipped with a lot of tools, not just the Valium. But Valium can be one of those tools. So those are just some thoughts that I had as you were talking about your experience. I think you're doing a lot of the right things. You've tracked your Valium use. You're taking it responsibly. You've gathered some good information, and also, like you say, you've scared yourself. So that would be important to stop. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.